Having wandered back to my chamber, I collapsed into the sleeping pod and let my battered body relax, shuddering as tense muscles released tension in short spasms. While not physically injured, I had definitely incurred a significant mental strain by taking on a god killer in the first round. Fucking hell, did these Xenos go all out? I looked at my hand. Still can't believe the damn Xenos had a god slayer. That shit stung. Well, enough with the expletives, I was alive. The initial plan to wow the audience had succeeded. So I needed to talk to coach, plan for the next match and catch 40 winks. This was going to be an interesting few months. I walked over to my belonging and brought out the holopad and dialed for coach. She answered pretty much straight away, and the holopad projected her into the center of the room. As I started picking at the food and liquids left for me, she seemed pretty happy as she said, "You are making big waves on the HoloNet North." Turns out the living legend plan was successful. It was, though it was damn terrifying as well. How would you like an ugly Xeno ogre swinging a god-slaying weapon in your face? I grumbled back as she just laughed in response. Seriously, if the audience hadn't responded so well to the only Death Worlder summoner fighting a summon legend on his own, that Death Worlder me would likely have had serious trouble. As it is, my hand aches and I want to sleep. So let's get this over with. I only have 20 hours before the next match and will need to read the relevant literature. Coach sighed. You never really had a way with people, did you? Never mind though, the next opponents are going to be the Silitral. And from the looks of it, there are 8 of them, and they seem to enjoy summoning monsters. One in particular stands out. It's about a 4-limbed insectoid the size of a small skyscraper. It went pretty much untouched and killed thousands before a lucky asteroid crashed into it and killed it. Fairly sure if we can get something to come from space for our next summon, we would have a what sort of insanity is going on in that head of yours for you to start laughing so hard. I struggled to explain my ideas, since it was such a perfect time to show off humanity's heroes. Finally, I calmed down and started to explain. The arenas are open-topped, so something from space isn't impossible. However, the only impression of humans so far is we are strong beyond belief. I have the perfect idea that meets both space and strength criteria. And I can probably do a good job with the summoning even without literature. Coach nods, indicating for me to continue. Did you ever play old shooters from the beginning of the millennia? You mean things like Call of Duty? No, I was thinking more Spartan than that. By Spartan, do you literally mean Spartan, as in the chief? I crack a grin, and coach starts laughing, the one and only. And with that, we ended discussions and I collapsed into bed, falling into a delightful dream of me entering a planet's atmosphere encased in a metal pod, the wind screeching by like a banshee, and then the deafening echo as I crashed into the ground. Oh yes, this next round will definitely cause some jaws to drop. As I woke up, I noticed 18 hours had passed. Realizing legends really took it out of a man, you know, and I was running a little late. I devoured more of the generic foodstuffs laid out. I thought to myself to try and get coach to send me a decent steak, or maybe fish and chips. Well, no issue, this was nutritious enough, just a bit generic at times. Well, time to prepare for the summoning in a non-conventional manner, at least from the Xeno perspective. I got out of my nightwear and put on the characteristic dark blue of the Royal Earth Navy uniform, making sure that my commander insignia was correctly positioned, since this would matter for who I planned to summon. Most Xenos seem to subjugate their legends through sheer willpower, hence the multiple summoners to enable this. This was not the case for me. I wanted to make my realization stronger and independent. It was more effective that way, and I choose my old Navy uniform for exactly that reason. With that I was ready and signaled to the moderators to have someone take me over to the designated arena. They quickly sent someone over, a tribune if my Xeno knowledge hadn't failed me. He led me to a small hover jet and we left for the new arena. As he flew me to the arena I was scheduled to match in, he seemed awfully delighted, trying to talk to me about how humans were really strong for first-time competitors, that no one expected a member of any species to face a summoned legend and live, let alone unharmed, and something about betting credits on me. Not too sure though since he was talking so rapidly. My translator, which I had spared no expense for, struggled to keep up. Seems like the plan to make cripples in the galactic pond had been closer to a tsunami. I grinned at that thought, and we reached the arena without incident. Xenos love entertainment, maybe even more than humans. Though I guess, when you deal with entities that could kill gods, having a 2 km square open-topped arena actually seemed pretty optimistic. Until you realize that psychic dampener and energy shields limited you to that area to prevent cataclysmic events. I didn't plan any of that, at least. Not for this level of opponent. We landed, and I was led to the summoning pedestal. Here, I was greeted by the opposing team, weird bunch. 4 arms, 3 legs. At least they had more normal mouths rather than the angle. I shook their hands, their translators informing them it was a sign of sportsmanship. They reciprocated with their species equivalent, which was a bobbing of the head. Having made our greetings, we proceeded to our pedestals, and the announcers asked us to declare the types of entity we would be summoning. The Silitral said they were summoning a giant insect capable of consuming all life, killed by cosmic intervention alone. Coach was damn good at predicting opponents, had to give it to her. As they finished explaining, they took up positions and summoned in their giant 4-legged beetle. And it was pretty large, had to give them that. Most people would run from such a thing, though I only stood and grinned. It really did look like a boss fight for the hero I had in mind. The announcers turned to me, and I was handed the transmitter. I think they expected me to declare I would fight again. I wasn't going to become a one-trick pony though. I brought it to my mouth and spoke. The one I plan to realize is a being from a fictitious story I heard from when I was a child. It was about a soldier who endured pain and suffering to be the best humanity could offer. And when some aliens took notice of us, they sought our destruction. So this soldier was sent to war. He was told that he would experience hell and more. I heard gasps at this point as translators gave the equivalent of hell. And he was ordered to do many things, the least of which was to drop onto a planet, into a living hell. With one explanation. He was not to jump feet first into hell, but to make sure it was crowded when he got there. With that, I imagined, I believed, and I realized. At first, the announcers were expectant, and then time passed, and they looked confused. I think one asked if I was going to start. But I knew I could feel him coming from above. A high-pitched scream pierced the arena, and the audiences looked up in time to see a meteorite coming. Or so they thought. Everyone backed away, leaving me on my pedestal. And I only grinned. Tsunami indeed. With that thought, the meteorite crashed into the ground about 25 meters away. Except, no meteor had that sort of angular shape, or that honed sheen. But the familiar blast of noise I associated with drop pods, the front panel shot off, allowing the man within to leave. Standing close to 2.2 meters tall and weighing half a ton, a green man stood. I strode over, ignoring the dust that had hit my uniform in the impact. As I approached him, he looked at me and saluted. "Commander, nice to see you." I saluted back. "Chief, you have a new mission. You see that giant alien beetle in the distance?" "Yes, sir. I want it gone. This is the galactic stage, we must not mess up. How you do it, I will leave to you. Show them what humanity is made of." "Understood." With that, I turned to the announcers and organizers. I was ready. The countdown begun. As the starting horn sounded, the Master Chief, the demon, sprung into action. Author's name and the link to original text in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. And please join our channel.